And we've seen that in pop culture, we've seen that in our music videos, we've seen that in film and entertainment. And I had to have one of my good friends on the line. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hey, Brenda, how are you?
Hi, I'm well.
We're talking about African culture on the Spice Drive today and how much we're protecting our African culture. Great to have you on the Spice Drive.
Thank you so much for having me. Oh my gosh.
You get an applause and cheers and everything, and it's great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, and we can't talk about African culture and the preservation of it if we don't talk about the journey. A lot of people were born on the timeline, were born, I presume, in the 80s, the 90s. So there was a lot of Western exposure. And we're talking about Lionheart, the Nigerian movie that was disqualified, largely because there was a lot of English in that movie.
Yes.
Break it down.
So, the Oscars have a segment, if I can call it, for international film.
Yes.
And Lionheart is one of the films that was submitted, and it was disqualified because it was predominantly in English.
Yes.
I think in the movie there's only an 11-minute segment of, if I'm correct, Igbo.
Yes.
And they disqualified it for that. And Genevieve
yes,
came out and spoke about it, and she said that as African countries, we didn't choose who colonized us.
Yes.
And so therefore we didn't choose what our national languages would be. So it would be unfair for these people, in my opinion, to instill their languages on us and force us to learn them and then now disqualify us for using them.
Yes, and when they hear African feature film, or it is from Nigeria, or it's from Kenya, or it's from Uganda, they expect to see a lot of that. You have to be more exotic. Is that the seller? Is that the big seller?
That's the seller. I believe they want to see lots of stifle skirts and African music.
Yes.
And languages they don't understand, but they need to realize, and I think they do realize it, maybe they're just willingly ignorant. They realize that we speak mostly English, we wear the clothes that they wear, and our lives now are mostly kind of molded from what is sold to us, which is mostly Western.
Yes, and we've grown up with a lot of influences. As you know, this is a throwback station. We play music I know you love.
I do.
And we've got a lot of influences there. And it would be a double standard to say that we never had an ounce of that to influence what we've become today. So why is it that there's that disqualification? And do you think that penetrating the international market, you would think that having English as a spoken language in that movie would actually automatically give her the exposure that she's looking for?
And I think that's the angle most filmmakers take. They do their films in English so that it can be accepted worldwide.
Yes, because
I don't know.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I don't know how else to penetrate that market except to speak in a language that they understand. And I don't think I'm being very harsh, but they're very rigid in the things that they allow in their space.
Yes.
So if you don't speak their language or wear the clothes that they wear, then they kind of look at you like a kind of a token, which is not what we want to be. We want to be filmmakers who are accepted worldwide. When you're making a film, you want it to be seen. You want as much exposure for it as possible. And we see it as doing it in English is probably the only way to do that.
Wow. And you're an actress yourself, but also, off the stage, you've been doing this for a long time. A lot of people argue that, when it comes to being African, it's more than just, war paint and Bantu knots. Being African today is more than just what meets the eye. I've got a tweet here that says our African values and culture is not culture, because we may be African, but our cultures are very, very different. Our ancestors did not walk around trying to preserve what they were doing or not doing for the future generation in mind. They were doing it to remain alive. Fast forward, it's 2019, we're crossing over 2020, and things are really, really changing. What do you think would enable people on the continent to say, you know what, when you think you've understood Africa, it's not what it is. And we are still preserving our cultures, our food, our music, our arts, and, you can name it, it's endless. Does it mean that we have to walk around? I like that you said it's like a token, Does it mean that you're less African because you speak in English? There's a double standard, right?
There is a double standard.
Yes. And does it mean that we don't get recognized internationally because you did not throw in a Kikuyu line or a Luganda line, and now, you're not African enough? What's the way forward in the time that we're in?
It's funny you should say a Kikuyu line, because I just learned recently that on, I think, one of the Star Wars movies, there's an actual Kikuyu. I don't remember the exact scene or the exact character, but he spoke Kikuyu for a while, and I found that really hilarious. But what I know is that we are at such a disadvantage, but we can use it to our advantage as well, because now we have so many avenues, and the biggest one being the internet. So we are able to now show Africa the way we want to show it.
Yes.
However African you are, if you're African with a hint of English, if you're African with a hint of French, because they're French colonies as well.
Yes.
And we still do have these cultures that, as much as our ancestors or the people who came before us were not very, they didn't really preserve it when you look at the countries that colonized us, so the first world countries now.
Yes.
Their history, their culture is very well documented, is very well preserved. But for us, even the things that our artifacts and whatnot, they're being stored in.
Yes.
They're being stored in the museums over there. We have to either buy them back or beg for them back. But now, whatever is happening now, we're able to showcase it in the open on YouTube and on all these other avenues.
Yes.
And they're there preserved for us.
Yes.
So we just have to keep on doing that.
We have to keep on doing it. And I think people are doing it in their own way. And I know you're a mom. I know you're a mom. And I know you're teaching your daughter a lot of the things that you're proud to say, we're African. These are the things that we are. But it would be wrong, in my opinion, to say that we're not doing enough to protect our African values and our cultures. Someone here on the timeline said there's several. But to me, Africa is a beautiful place. It's one big village. And of course, you've also been nominated for an award. Tell us about that.
So, first of all, Subira was also one of the films that was submitted for the international Oscar category.
Yes.
And we're through now to the next level, so now we're just waiting for the shortlisting. Applause again.
Congratulations to you. Congratulations to you.
And personally, now for the coming Kalasha, I have 2 nominations.
Nice.
Best lead in a drama for Monica.
Yes.
And best supporting in a film for Best Friends Forever.
Wow. I love that. And we had to take it back there. We had to take it back there when it comes to that conversation. And I'm so glad you were part of the Spice Drive. And I'm going to be throwing in a Brandy song because I know you like Brandy. Thank you so much for being part of the conversation, Brenda.
Thank you so much, Mo. I'm so glad you're back on radio, man.
Yay!
Hey, applause for that too. Come on.
And of course, we get to do this. Brenda, I'll talk to you later. We'll get to do this again from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. every single weekday. And we get to open up the phone lines, by the way, 0719012600.